So I just want you to kind of like keep that in mind, that the people, there are people in the Navy, US Navy, who understand that these patents that I'm going to be discussing and introducing in greater detail are going to introduce a transformation, and they want this. People in the Navy, as well as the other military services, want this transformation because they understand that the way we've been working, or the way that our planet has been working on these technologies, has been at a kind of caterpillar pace. And now we need to accelerate and become like butterflies. So let's look at, okay, so where do we begin in understanding these technologies? I want to look at one of the observations made by Ben Rich, who was the chief of Lockheed Martin's Skunk Works division, which is where Lockheed Martin has been working on these special access programs for the different military services, primarily for the Air Force, but also for the Army and for the Navy. And so in the background there you see that's the, what is it, the F-117 that Ben Rich worked on. He was involved in that, as well as other Lockheed Martin projects. So this is something that Lockheed Martin has been working on, a lot of these special access programs. Oh, it sounds as though someone's got, Neil, that might be you.
Yep, sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, okay, we've got, what we have with Lockheed Martin is a company that for many, many decades has been working on a number of projects, special access projects, like the F-117. That was one of these special access programs. The SR-71 was another one. The U-2 spy plane out of Area 51, that was another one that Lockheed Martin worked on. So these were all special access programs, and they were revealed. But there are categories of special access programs, often described as unacknowledged special access programs. These are programs that are so secretive that, especially those that have to do with space, the projects that Lockheed Martin has been working on dealing with space travel, that is something that has not been released, not been declassified. And so, for example, what you have here is Ben Rich saying, quote, "We already have the means to travel to the stars, but these technologies are locked up in black projects, and it would take an act of God to ever get them out to benefit humanity." So this is an observation that Ben Rich has made, because there have been others that have been attempted to make some of this information public, but they have been prevented. There was a famous case. There was I know, for example, Paul Laviolette wrote about an attempt by the Boeing Corporation in the late 1990s to have some of the anti-gravity technology declassified. So Boeing asked for permission from those that controlled this technology, whether they could declassify this so that they could build some civilian airliners using anti-gravity technology. Imagine that. I mean, how transformative that would have been. But Boeing was told, no, you can't, you cannot, this technology is not going to be declassified. You just have to go ahead with the existing technologies, and that's been the case. So Ben Rich has observed that this has been really a very difficult area to declassify when it comes to anti-gravity, new energy technologies, anything that basically would make the fossil fuel industry redundant. Declassifying those technologies has been extraordinarily difficult, even though there are a lot of people, even a majority of people now within the deep black programs who have wanted this technology to come forward for different reasons, but nevertheless, it hasn't happened. And because Ben Rich understands that it's very easy to prevent classified technology to be declassified by different agencies that have an interest in that. Now, where was Skunkworks building a lot of these classified programs, the projects, where were they being conducted? This was occurring in a place called Plant 42 in Palmdale, California. So that's right next to Edwards Air Force Base. And the Palmdale facility is a very large facility. It's owned jointly by the Air Force as well as other major US corporations like Skunkworks. Northrop Grumman is involved there, as well as Boeing. I think Boeing's involvement is more secretive. I think it's associated with their highly secretive Phantom Works. And so these are some of the companies that conduct special access programs jointly with the Air Force at Plant 42. Now, the thing to keep in mind is that when you have a corporation working on an unacknowledged special access program, like building a spy plane or building a stealth aircraft like the F-117, what you have is a lot of proprietary secrets because this is not just owned by the Air Force, because you have the Air Force basically giving a contract to that company who builds the craft in collaboration with the Air Force. So when it comes to special access programs that involve, some say, anti-gravity space technologies, the Air Force will share whatever it has with the company. So it'll share whatever advanced technologies it has in its possession or it has gained through kind of foreign technology acquisition programs. And, you know, foreign technology, that can mean quite a lot of things in addition to Chinese and Russian. So I won't get into that in that presentation, but this is where you actually have Lockheed Martin working jointly with the Air Force on these technologies, and these are proprietary trade secrets. So once Lockheed gets this information from the Air Force or the Navy, or whoever the primary contractor is, and Lockheed starts working on that, then it becomes proprietary information. And so this is part of the problem, that for these companies to release these classified technologies, it's very, very difficult because they stand to lose a lot of money in that could be made through profit or through just keeping this kind of information within the control of that company. So again, that's just one of the reasons why it's so hard to declassify these kinds of technologies, because the companies themselves, like Lockheed Martin, would not really be that highly motivated to release the secrets on building some, say, anti-gravity craft that it has built for the Air Force. It would much rather just build whatever the Air Force wants and not release those secrets to the world. But nevertheless, you know, this is something that the Navy, as I will be going into, wants to be released. So they're taking it out of the hands of the corporations that has kind of like kept a stranglehold on these kinds of technologies. And if you look at you know, who are the shareholders of these major companies like Lockheed Martin or Northrop Grumman, you'll find that a lot of the shareholders have big interests in the oil industry. So this is why a lot of these companies are not very enthusiastic of releasing these technologies into the public arena. But nevertheless, sometimes there is a struggle, as I mentioned in the case of Boeing. Boeing does have an interest in switching over from the fossil fuel industry to, say, electromagnetic propulsion systems, anti-gravity systems because that would, you know, create more reliable and cheaper craft for them, and that would raise their profits. So, but by and large, a lot of these companies have oil industry kind of influence, really holding back any attempt to declassify. So, you know, where does that take us then? So if you have all of this technology that involves, say, reverse engineering, some anti-gravity technologies that the Air Force or the Navy has in its possession, what do you do then? You know, one path is declassification, and I've already explained why declassifying this kind of technology runs into all sorts of roadblocks, you know, because it's not only the major corporations that have major shareholders that are directly related to the oil industry, but there may be other reasons why a company might be reluctant in releasing some of these technologies. Proprietary trade secrets, they don't want competitors from getting it. They might be concerned about the prospect of countries like China or Russia getting those secrets. So, you know, getting this stuff declassified has a lot of roadblocks. So this is where we come into the other option, which is reinventing the wheel. Basically, this is where, rather than declassifying, putting all your, you know, putting all your efforts into trying to have stuff declassified, you try to reinvent the wheel, try and rebuild these technologies. And it's very interesting. I know many of you probably are very familiar with the To the Stars Academy and Tom DeLonge's Secret Machines. I mean, it's very controversial exactly what they're doing, but I notice, having watched the very beginning of the Secret Machines approach that Tom DeLonge had, you know, he was putting all his effort into having stuff declassified, and working with, you know, 10 industry insiders, high-level industry insiders from the military-industrial complex, who were helping him to try and have this stuff declassified. But now, for those of you that have you know, been watching developments at the To the Stars Academy, you notice that now they're putting their efforts all into building these anti-gravity technologies, building electromagnetic propulsion systems. So rather than trying to declassify stuff because they realize they ran into a dead end, their emphasis has now moved into reinventing the wheel, basically having their people come up with these proposed anti-gravity vehicles, and then having the public fund that kind of reverse engineering effort. So that's another strategy, reinventing the wheel, and that I think is really where these Navy patents are taking us down this track, because the US Navy is a huge institution in the United States. But even the Navy has trouble trying to declassify stuff. But as I will be explaining, if the Navy puts its efforts into reinventing the wheel, then something else can happen. And that's what I think is going on. But I will go into more detail into that. Now, one of the really interesting things that occurred early on with the Trump administration was during his inaugural address, he made a really amazing announcement as part of his speech. So on January 2017, during his inauguration, Trump's speech, in it he said, quote, "We stand at the birth of a new millennium, ready to unlock the mysteries of space, to free the earth from the miseries of disease, and to harness the energies, industries, and technologies of tomorrow," end quote. So, you know, right there, you have a quote that could really be illustrating the kind of society we're going to be living in once we go through this kind of transition. Earlier on, I was talking about the butterfly and the caterpillar. You know, we are experiencing this lockdown, And of course, we're in the midst of a presidential election. But at some point, I think what we're going to experience is something like this, where we're going to come out on the other side of whatever is ahead of us in terms of, you know, the virus, the lockdowns, this presidential election. And on the other side of that, we are going to be having some incredible technologies, you know, where space, the mysteries of space are going to be revealed. The miseries of disease, we're going to deal with those much more effectively. And of course, the energies, industries, and technologies of tomorrow, you know, that's taking us well beyond the fossil fuel industry that has dominated our life on our planet for pretty much a century now. From early on in the 20th century right up until the present, fossil fuel, coal, gas has dominated the energy sector. So one of the things that President Trump did on January 20th was that allegedly he signed a secret presidential memorandum to declassify anti-aging and free energy technologies. So that was something that was revealed to me by insiders linked with Corey Good. And he told me this, and I was very interested in, well, you know, what evidence is there that this is going on? Because Donald Trump has a very interesting background. His uncle, John Trump, was the person who was charged by the FBI, or given the responsibility by the FBI to review Nikola Tesla's papers after his death in 1943, to review which of those papers you know, could be released to the public and which ones needed to be held up under national security orders or kept secret. So that was John Trump, who later on confided in Donald Trump a lot of the kind of secrets that he had learned about. So Donald Trump knew about a lot of these secret technologies that had been hidden, that had been subjected to secrecy orders and involved in these black projects. So Trump was aware of this, and so this apparently was why he issued this presidential memorandum, where basically he asked the intelligence community to release the national security orders on up to 1,000 patent applications that had been withheld. So this is where we get into the idea that it's through the US patent system that you can actually have this reinventing of the wheel process begin, because, you know, there's a lot of patents applications in the patent system that have been held up under national security orders, and allegedly Trump, shortly after his inauguration, issued a presidential memorandum asking for 1,000 of these to be declassified. So the US Patent and Trademark Office is very important for us in understanding how this new world is going to come into existence, because it's going to be through inventors being allowed to have patents published and then having industry build the technologies that those patents are describing. So first of all, we need to kind of look at what happens when an inventor asks for a patent on an invention. And obviously, if you're an inventor and you invent something that you think is going to transform society and is going to really be very significant, then you want to take out a patent to protect your invention from stopping anyone from stealing that from you. And so then you submit it to the US Patent and Trademark Office. And the normal process is that you have examiners look at your patent application, and they look at it in terms of what's scientifically feasible, if it's commercially viable, and those sorts of characteristics. I mean, they have a number of criteria that they apply, and then they'll grant the patent. But but what happens is that during the process, if any publication or any patent application involves an area that may be of interest to the national security community, then the commissioner for the US Patent and Trademark Office tells the national security community that there's a patent here that you might want to take a look at in terms of whether that's going to be subjected to national security order. So what is a national security order? So in the Invention Secrecy Act of 1951, so that's in the US code, this is what it says, quote, whenever the publication or disclosure of an invention by the publication of an application or by the granting of a patent is, in the opinion of the head of an interested government agency, determined to be detrimental to national security, the Commissioner for Patents at the United States Patent and Trademark Office must issue a secrecy order and withhold the grant of a patent for such period as the national interest requires, end quote. So basically what happens there is that the Commissioner for the Patents Office will issue a secrecy order if a patent application is in the opinion of some government agency detrimental to the national security. So if you come up with, say, a free energy device, a device that may be is able to utilize solar energy much more efficiently than, say, what's currently out there, then that can be something that some government agency might say, no, that's detrimental to national security. Because if you put out, let's just say your patent application for a solar panel that maybe has like an 80% efficiency rating, right? So it can convert 80% of sunlight into electrical energy. You know, that's far higher than existing solar panels. I think they're kind of closer to around 20% efficiency. So that could be deemed to be detrimental to national security. And so, that would mean that there would be a secrecy order that would be issued, and that patent application is effectively stymied. It doesn't go forward, it's not granted. The inventor cannot go internationally with that patent application because it's subject to a national security order. And they can't talk about it publicly because it involves national security. So basically, for all intents and purposes, a patent application for, say, a high efficiency solar panel might be stymied. Just because someone in the national security system says that this is something that could be detrimental to national security. So the Invention Secrecy Act goes on, quote, an invention shall not be ordered, kept secret, and the grant of a patent withheld for a period of more than 1 year. The Commissioner shall renew the order at the end thereof or at the end of any renewal period for additional periods of 1 year upon notification by the head of the department or the chief technical officer of the agency who caused the order to be issued that an affirmative determination has been made that the national interest continues so to require. So that means that every year, all those national security orders that have been issued that have prevented the publication of patents, they need to be renewed. But the Commissioner basically approaches the National Security Agency or whatever government department that issued that national security order or asked for the national security order to be kind of issued, ask them, well, is this still subject to national security constraints, or is this still detrimental to national security? And that agency will say yes or no. If they say yes, then it's renewed for another year. And so this has been going on for decades. There are some patent applications that literally have been held up for decades and the inventors have not been able to do anything simply because these national security orders are renewed annually, and the inventor has no recourse. They can't appeal, they can't go to the courts, they can't publicly talk about this, they can't go internationally. Basically, the livelihood that they could have earned from this, they might receive some compensation. There are provisions, or they may be actually asked to work in a black project. That's another way. I know Thomas Townsend Brown was one of these people that was asked to work for the Navy, because he had a number of patents dealing with some anti-gravity technology. So that's maybe for some inventors, that's what happens to them, that they can't publish their patents. They're not going to make any money out of it. All the time and energy they put into those patent applications and the livelihood they would have earned is all under threat. So if the Army or the Navy or a corporation approaches them and says, we want you to work for us, sign a contract with us, and you can build your energy device or your whatever it is that they were working on.